Hello, and welcome to this webcast about resources and investment for AI initiatives that we're doing from AIRISE. With me today, it's Milda. She's an expert in business coming from Intech Centers. And as announced today, we have a few questions like what happens within an organization once you start an initiative on AI in manufacturing. And the second question that we want to address today is how can investment requirements be estimated and planned early? So they all should go around how to support you guys that are doing manufacturing best when you start an AI initiative. Welcome, Milda.
Hello, it's nice to be here. Thank you.
So I would suggest let's directly start into the topic. So what would you do? How would you start an initiative on AI manufacturing from the business side?
Well, I think that the first step should be to sketch your vision, to map your plan, to understand what exactly you want to do. What is your goal? What is your objectives? What's the end result is supposed to look like? Or what is supposed to do? So once you have that, it's much easier then to move forward with your plan. And of course, once you have this vision, once you know what you're going to do, it's good to involve your organization, to involve your upper management, but also your shop floor workers, because especially if the solution is dedicated to them to improve, let's say, their work, it is very important that they accept and then adapt the solution. So it's very important to have a very clear and very open communication in the organization, both to improve the solution or your vision, but also to just make it work in the long term.
So the first thing you're emphasizing is to try to, as much as you can, precisely formulate what you want to achieve.
Yes.
The second thing you're saying is to have this open communication. I mean, usually if someone has an idea in a company, they just say, okay, I want to do this project. And then they go to their boss and they say, that's my idea. And the boss says, okay, do it. But you say, try to get, let's say, even the workshop people, the people on the shop floor on board. Why is that?
Well, what we see a lot, and I know that everyone wants to keep their little gold nuggets hidden away, but what we see a lot is that, especially when it comes from upper management, they create some ideas or some visions what they want to do that are not well received then on the shop floor by the actual workers, and then there's kind of a tip there to then actually implement something. So you don't need to give away all your brilliant ideas, but just to get an input, some feedback, it's also always a good idea.
Okay, so it's really to make sure that everyone knows what's going to happen and to make people aware that there's some change coming in.
Yes, of course, and to prepare, especially when we talk about AI, there's a lot of myths around it. So just to make sure that you tell your workers that it's not that the robots are taking over. it's to improve their.
That's a good point. That's also one of the main action points currently at European level with this AI Act that you guys out there might have heard of. So it's like making sure that people are still in command of what's happening. And yeah, Miller, I think that's a very good suggestion to really bring
yes,
on board and to make
also,
them understand.
Sorry, it's also a very good idea to think about upskilling or reskilling your own workers to make sure that they keep up with your improvement of your, let's say, production lines or whatever you want to upgrade with AI solutions. So just to go together.
That brings me to the other question, that is, how do you calculate such an engagement? You're saying skilling up people, that usually costs a bit. So what would you suggest to an SME that wants to engage on an AI idea? What should they try to take in account when setting up a budget for their initiative?
Well, of course, once they have the vision, once you have your vision, once you map out your actions, even in the rough form, it's easier to see what kind of resources you need, whether it's human resources or outside. Might need outside technical help or things like that. So it's much easier to see the scope. So it's very important to understand that scope. It's very important to take into account the risks that there might be delays, there might be technical issues, technical problems that might need also take your budget overboard. It's always a good idea to try and divide this big project into smaller pieces with a separate budget for each, so then you can actually manage it much easier. So then you feel the pulse of the whole project throughout, and don't get, and the budget does not get away from you. And yeah, and in the ideal situation, of course, you have the full budget you need from the start to fund it budget throughout. If not, then you should, before you start, you should look for additional funding, whether partners, or there's also nowadays a lot of different opportunities. So just to make sure that you have your budget beforehand.
Okay, yeah. That would also include the side activities like sending people for kind of upskilling in data acquisition or in programming, even programming.
I think it's a great idea, and I think that there's also a lot of opportunities for that. But of course, it depends on I guess on each separate case what you're trying to do with your idea. Whereas maybe you already have very skilled employees and you just need a solution. So it's a case by case. But well, looking in general in what we see nowadays, usually yes, we still need upskilling and reskilling for the employees, especially when it comes to AI.
Okay, so it's like, again, defining the vision so that you precisely know what you want to do, put it in phases, and make sure that you can also pay for the extra upskilling or extra things that might come up. You said risk assessment in the beginning, if I got you right. Would you perhaps try to, or could you wrap up for us what kind of risk you would see on an AI initiative? Is there anything specific
Well,
that you would?
I would say that I guess the biggest issue, it might be the problem with the human resources, with actually finding because I don't know, it depends on of course on the solution you are looking for, but it might be that you might face a problem with finding actually the person who can implement the solution. So this might be a problem. Also, another risk, if you don't take into account the reskilling, upskilling of your employees, it might be that the solution once created might not be adapted by your employees. So I think it's also might be a risk even after it's kind of after the project is already implemented, but still. So yes,
so like a bit to decide in the case that you need to, let's say, buy in additional resources for the later implementation then.
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful. That gives us a nice overview about things to consider when starting an AI idea running out into the manufacturing area of your company. So let me try to wrap that up again. We've been talking about how to set an idea for an AI initiative, how to communicate that to employees, how to involve people within the company, and how to calculate budget. And I mean, Milda is in this job for quite some time. So she is consulting companies in getting things like this to life. And AIRISE has a concrete offering. There is an ecosystem around AI in manufacturing where people can have a look into, where you can have a look into when you look for external programming resources, for sensors, or for funding support. You might meet Milda there once you trigger our lines, once you put a question to us. But basically, we are there to support such kind of initiatives, to bring them to life. That's it from our side. Are there any questions currently here in the webcast? No, I don't see any. No, I don't see any questions here. But then on the second line, contact us. So give us a ring if you want to know more. Give us a ring if you need some support, if you want to structure your engagement to make it become live. Thanks a lot, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.